It was a normal, hardworking Thursday afternoon, and I was hoping to go to my first ever golf lesson that night, but I had deadlines and I was just trying so hard to focus and I couldn't, so I gave up and went home. Spent a miserable night in freezing cold, just couldn't warm up, felt dreadful in the morning, and actually for the first day in working life, I couldn't go into work. So I was trying to work in my bed, not realizing that I was getting worse and worse. And called the doctor in the morning. I did get a house call, and the locum GP didn't pick up that I had meningococcal septicemia. So I ended up calling an ambulance later in the afternoon because I knew that there was something way wrong once I spotted the rash on my hands and my feet. So I was rushed in as an emergency at about 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, and I was unconscious more or less on arrival. And I woke up a month later, and everything had changed. And the first 2 weeks was about keeping me alive, but by that time, the effect of the antibiotic treatment had caused my hands and feet to become completely gangrenous. The gangrene had crept up right over my elbows and over my knees. So my hands and my feet had to be amputated to save my life. I couldn't move in the bed, and my whole body was covered in bandages from the neck down. And actually quite early on, and against the plan that my family had made with the surgeons, a nurse told me that my hands and feet had been amputated. But I didn't take it in at all. I could still feel them, and the bandages were so big that I could kid myself that really that wasn't true. I was then rather brutally moved to a specialist rehabilitation hospital, Astley Ainsley, just a mile from my home. And from the day I arrived there, which was 10 weeks after I'd first fallen ill, it was boot camp. The physiotherapists were bouncing into my room, telling me what the agenda would be, and I was like, oh, it's all just too much. But very quickly, I was on an exercise program. I was wheeled into the gym every morning and told what I needed to do, and I did it. The goal was there. I knew where I was going, and without trying to put a date on it or figure out every single step in the process, which I really couldn't get my head around, I believed them when they said, if you do what we're setting for you to do today, you'll get there. And one day in the corridor outside the physio gym, I just got my weight over my hips and knees, and I knew I was balanced. And it was just like the feeling you get when you first ride a bike. You just have, you know, you're in the right place and you've got the knack. I just let go of the wall and walked and never looked back. I think it's about achieving the balance between focus on the goal, but only aiming for what is realistic in the short term, and really celebrating the small achievements along the way. If I think about my deep primal fear of not being able to get up and be independent when I was first lying in that hospital bed, I would not want that for any human being, and that is really the motivation to setting up the charity 500 miles. After the Proclaimers, I would walk 500 miles. And what it does is support the development and delivery of prosthetic and orthotic services in Malawi, mainly now, and a little bit in Zambia. So the people we benefit are mainly very poor people in the country who without the service, we'd be crawling on the ground literally, or hobbling around on crutches. And since we started, we have dispensed about 16,000 devices to a register of maybe about 14,000 people. And I think that the way to balance sort of realism and optimism is to keep your focus somewhere between the end goal and what you're actually having to do this day. Because if you're just doing process exercises, practicing something that doesn't have a real meaning in your life or isn't taking you towards your goal, you are going to get disheartened and give up more easily. So I think you do need to know where you're headed, what your vision is, and keep looking at that, but also stay focused on the short term and the immediate and what you can actually do today, and chalk up the little successes. And yeah, keep plugging away, don't give up. And if that's not working, just try something else.